In the 1st century CE, the empires of northern India were flourishing. Trade was going very well along the Silk Road, and everyone was happy. But in class, we talked only about the northern part of ancient India. If you look closely at the map, you will notice that there are no cities marked in South India, although there are a lot of land and sea trade routes passing through the area. I'm going to talk about South Indian empires today. Here's a map of ancient South India. There are many empires that made up southern India. The main ones were the Chora Empire, so it's spelled Chola, but it's pronounced as Chora. Anyway, the Pandya Empire, the Pallava Empire, the Chalukya Empire, and the Chera Empire. I will be talking about the Choras mainly because they reigned over the largest territory in the region, flourished for the longest period of time, and made some of the most significant contributions to art, architecture, and culture. The Choras were one of the longest ruling dynasties in the world. They ruled South India and Southeast Asia from 300 BCE to 1300 CE. But I will be focusing on a period of time when the Choras were at their height, the 9th century to the mid-10th century. The two kings that were responsible for the meteoric rise of the Chora Empire were Rajaraja Chora, who reigned from 985 CE to 1014 CE, and his son Rajendra Chora, who reigned from 1014 CE to 1044 CE. The Choras were mainly Hindus. As the empire expanded, it spread across Buddhist majority areas in northern India as well as Southeast Asia. Hinduism was encouraged throughout the empire, but other religions were also tolerated. In addition to their superior military and administrative abilities, the Choras made significant contributions to art and architecture. The Choras were a thalassocratic empire. This means that their conquests were mainly sea-based and they controlled sea trade throughout Southeast Asia. In this way, the Choras were similar to the Phoenicians, who controlled the shores of the Mediterranean and the trade that took place throughout it. Let us take a look at the seafaring capabilities of the Choras. The extent of the Chora Empire required the navy to have capabilities to fight in rivers, close to land, which is basically off the coast or in a lake. And they also needed to be able to fight in the open ocean. And they also needed large-scale expeditionary capabilities. The Chora Navy was a sophisticated and diverse force, and it was capable of carrying out both combat and non-combat operations. When I say non-combat operations, I mean escorting trade convoys and friendly vessels. And they also had to be able to patrol and sabotage enemy ships in terms of combat. They also were very good at establishing beachheads, where the ships carried the army to land, and they set up a base just off the coast. The Chora Navy also had a sophisticated organization structure with multiple levels and battle group sizes depending on operational needs. And this is similar to modern-day naval fleet organization. At its height, the main navy comprised of 5 fleets, 3 fleets of warships, 2 fleets of logistics ships, as well as transport ships to serve the needs of the army. The Choras also used ships disguised as fishing boats and pearl boats to catch their adversaries unawares. In fact, pearl fishermen would look for pearls at the bottom of the ocean floor were hired as saboteurs to dive and disable enemy vessels by destroying or damaging the rudder. The Choras also had a coast guard and customs system which levied tariffs on certain goods. To back up this vast navy, the Choras needed a very structured and organized port system. The port of Poompuhar was used as a commercial hub, while Nagapatnam was used as a naval base. Kanchipuram was a shipbuilding hub where ships were built and brought to the ocean through the Pala River. Cuddalore was a smaller port where pearl gatherers and fisher folk resided. As the navy grew, so did the Chora Empire. At its height, it extended from northeast India to southeast Asia under Rajendra Chora. The empire extended as far north as the Ganges River, which was conquered by Rajendra Chora. To commemorate this victory, he built an architectural marvel, the Shiva temple in the city of Gangaikonda Chorapuram, which means the city of the conqueror of the Ganges. Let us now talk about the jaw-dropping Chora architecture. The Choras created many architectural marvels that modern-day architects are still unable to replicate. For example, the Kallanai Dam, which was built by Karikala Chora in 100 CE, is the fourth oldest dam in the world, and it's still in use today. This was built across the Kaveri River, and this was the main river for the Choras. And this dam, as of today, can irrigate up to 1 million acres. Another example would be the Brihadishwara temple, which was built by Rajaraja Chora, and it's a massive temple dedicated to Shiva. It was built in Thanjavur in 1010 CE, and by the way, Thanjavur was the former capital of the Chora Empire. The dome of this temple is monolithic, and the rock weighs 80 tons. Nobody knows how the rock was lifted 100 feet in the air to place on top, and this was done 1,000 years ago. Another interesting fact is that there will never be a shadow anywhere in the compound of the temple. And on top of that, the temple is built on a 4x4 foundation, and that's how accurate the Chora measurements were. In addition, the city of Gangaikonda Chorapuram, I talked about that earlier, and it was built in 1035 CE, and this is similar in size and beauty to the Brihadishwara temple, and it was built to commemorate the annexation of the small kingdoms in the Ganges area. And now the Brihadishwara temple and the Shiva temple at Gangaikonda Chorapuram are both UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The Choras also created stone sculptures and metal sculptures. The stone sculptures were mainly in temples where they were found on pillars and walls. The metal sculptures were used for prayers at homes and at temples. I found the metal sculptures to be very intriguing, so let's talk about them. The Choras made their bronze sculptures using the lost wax technique. The procedure is as follows. Beeswax and camphor are mixed with a little oil and kneaded well. The figure is sculpted from this mixture, and all the minute details like the eyes and the nose are made. And this is now the original wax model. The entire figure is then coated with clay made from termite hills and until the mold is of a certain thickness. Then the whole thing is dried and fired in an oven, and the fuel used in the oven was actually dried cow dung. The wax model that's inside melts and flows out, while some of it even vaporizes. The metal alloy of bronze is melted and poured into the empty clay mold. When the metal has filled the mold up and it's all hardened and cooled, the mold is just broken away. The bronze figure inside is then cleaned and polished and all of that. And this process is very unique because each sculpture itself is unique because you can't use the same mold twice. Take a look at this picture. This is a picture of Nataraja, the god of dance. Look at how intricate this sculpture is. And the great thing is, though, this was all done 1,000 years ago using very primitive techniques. A lot of these sculptures are preserved through the ages, through the Chora decline, and some of them still exist today. This bears testament to the longevity of the Chora art. Now, let us talk about the decline of the Choras. The Choras declined after the rise of the Pandya dynasty. The Pandyas threatened to take full control of South India around 1100 CE, but the Choras were able to quell the threat with the help of the Hoysalas, who hailed from the southwestern part of India. Around 100 years later, the Pandyas, who had to submit to Chora overlordship, rose out of the dust and challenged the Choras once again. This time, the Hoysalas sided with the Pandyas, hastening the fall of the Choras. Later, the Pandyas would turn on the Hoysalas, routing them in battle and banishing them. By 1279 CE, the Pandyas were the strongest force in South India in the eyes of foreign observers. Although this was the case, the Choras left behind a great legacy that is not to be forgotten in the form of their art, architecture, and seafaring capabilities.